Hi, good afternoon, Carl.
Oh, hello. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm okay. To be honest, I have a doctor's appointment about now. I've been sick for the last couple of weeks and just not really getting very well.
Oh no, I'm so sorry
Uh,
to hear that.
so if I start coughing, I've got a glass of water, but if I cough a little bit, you'll have to forgive me.
That's absolutely fine. I'm so sorry to hear that. I hope you feel better soon, and thank you for still joining me and wanting to discuss your film, even though slightly incapacitated. Where
Yeah.
do I find you today? It looks like a very impressive library behind you.
Well, I wish they were my books. They're not my books. I'm in Berlin. We spent the last couple of months in Berlin, heading back to London tomorrow, then coming back to Berlin. But yeah, it's a great bookshelf.
Lovely, yeah, yeah, perfect backdrop. Well, look again, thank you so much for joining me and us at Short Focus Film Festival and for being a part of it. Tommies actually opens the entire festival,
Oh, wow.
so it will be the first film to screen on Saturday, the 16th of September, and then it will also screen for the entirety of the festival online as well, from the 16th to the 24th of September. For the benefit of those who haven't yet seen the film, what does Tommies mean and what is the film about?
So it might be easy to start with what the film is about. So the film is based on a historical sodomy scandal. There was a Molly house, or a kind of a male brothel in London in about 1810 that was raided by the police, and a bunch of men were arrested. It was quite a high profile case. There were men that were sort of put in the stocks, and they were pilloried and publicly shamed. A couple of men were hanged. So it was a particularly violent homophobic episode in kind of queer British history. But our film doesn't look at those. It doesn't really tackle those events head on. Instead, what it does is it looks at that event and fictionalizes it and looks at it through the lens of the experience of the women and the wives who perhaps existed at the edge of the event. And so really that's what the film centers on. It's a bunch of women getting ready to go to a ball, and I suppose one of them sort of drops a bit of a bombshell as they discuss the scandal. And in terms of the name, I mean, the name is sort of it's a bit how do I put it? Basically, the word Tommies is a slur, and it's very specific to the time. And so it's not something that we'd expect audiences would understand. And even within the film, it's quite ambiguous what the term means. Although with the internal logic of the film, as the women are discussing this scandal, they all very much know what it means. But in short, it was a derogatory term that the men were using to refer to the wives, their wives, basically. But yeah, I mean, I won't go any further into it because I'll get into etymologies and complex explanations. But suffice to say, it's a really nasty word.
Sure. And the way that I've kind of I've seen it a couple of times now, and for me, I kind of felt it was more of it was less sort of kitchen sink and more boudoir drawers. Kind of gives us an equally authentic slice of life drama that keeps you on the edge of your seat, as these kind of home truths are brought to the surface in an increasingly acerbic fashion. Tell us more about the genesis of the script and the project itself.
Yeah, I mean, so we kind of came across the history in a book by Peter Ackroyd called Queer London. There was a sort of a brief mention of this particular scandal. We delved a little bit deeper, saw that there really, it hadn't really been covered in popular culture. There's a Wikipedia article that's very short. And I guess we just started thinking about how to, it piqued our curiosity. And I think, we've always loved films like Sense and Sensibility, like Bergman's period drama, Cries and Whispers. These very kind of like these very female focused period dramas. And I think it was just trying to find a way of kind of meshing the two and looking at telling the story, as we say, through the female perspective, which was something that happened quite gradually. It was a very difficult script to write, mainly because, you kind of have to convey a sense of the drama that's occurred off stage or off screen rather, but very much, as you say, like focus it on the lives and the experience of these women. And I think, the sort of the boudoir drawer is quite a good analogy because we wanted to give that sense of reality. We wanted you to feel like you were sort of dropping in on some kind of, it's not, I'm not saying it's like Italian neo-realism or anything, but we didn't want to do a Bridgerton, and we didn't want to do, you know, as much as we admire, say, you know, Emma Thompson's Sense and Sensibility, it's a very human script and very funny. We wanted to find a more brutal kind of way into to this sort of this world and this period, and give it an edge.
It's also really beautifully shot as well, by Brian Fawcett, and in fact the entire production design is really exquisite. You know, really opulent and grand interiors that feel more and more claustrophobic with the introduction of each character as well. What was your process in terms of finding the right crew to create the look of your film?
Well, we'd worked with Brian Fawcett before on a music video called House of Air, which was very different. I mean, it was a period piece, but it was 70s. So we'd worked with him before. I suppose in terms of, you know, the rest, well, also actually our production designer, Vicente Ben, we'd also worked with him on House of Air. I mean, I think with this one, so much of it was about finding the right location. You know, we needed to find a place that felt, you know, that had that sort of grandioseness, I suppose, but also felt so textured. I mean, if you look at a lot of, and it's certainly the trend with, I think, period dramas these days, it's kind of pastels and its symmetry. I mean, you can look at Autumn de Wilde's version of Emma, or Bridgerton with its kind of clash of aesthetics. But we wanted to find, I mean, our reference point, I think, was we were looking back at some stills from Fassbinder's Petra von Kant with these big kind of murals on the wall. So, and we came across this location, and it's actually in Oxfordshire, this big sort of Queen Anne house, Palladian mansion with these massive tapestries and the wood paneling, and I think we wanted something that felt you know, textured, and I think that's also kind of what gives it the claustrophobia. And of course, you know, in terms of the location itself and the production design, I mean, that house was chock-a-block full of Victorian furniture. So, you know, our production designer, Vicente Ben, did a brilliant job pulling in the right, you know, furniture, candelabras, curtains, and really crafting that space. But yeah, look, as I say, I mean, location was key, and finding that, you know, it had to have the right staircase, the right kind of drawing room.
Yeah, no, it's really impressive. It looks beautiful. And it is a short that relies really heavily on a strong ensemble cast as well. You know, lots of interchanging dialogue. I imagine the performances performances like that do require plenty of preparation. How much time was actually needed for rehearsal and shooting?
We had no rehearsals. It was COVID, so the casting process was really long because our production was delayed. We wanted to shoot November. That, you know, then I think there was the Omicron variant. We ended up shooting in May of 2021. But we cast everybody. We had a sort of a Zoom call with each actor to sort of really discuss in depth their character, to get them to pose questions. I mean, they had lots of questions about the script as well, because I think, you know, when you watch it once, it is quite a cryptic sort of piece. And then we had one read-through. We had one Zoom read-through for about an hour and a half. You know, we didn't have a chance. We couldn't get into a location to block it, you know, because of COVID restrictions. We couldn't even like hire a hall and just get everyone in the same room and sort of block it. So that was why storyboarding was really important. And I think also just what the actors themselves invested in understanding their characters and really understanding the script and committing to the script. Because I think usually with a piece like this, you would almost approach it a bit like theater, and you would rehearse it. So who knows? Maybe we were lucky. Maybe there was something about the level of I'm not going to say lack of preparation, but the inability to really prepare, that people kind of came in and all of a sudden we're in the space and there's something really kind of alive and you know, on edge about the whole thing.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. I mean, it is, you know, truly impressive, you know, that, you know, there kind of wasn't too much kind of rehearsal around it then. You know, it definitely feels really kind of detailed, but you definitely feel that kind of bristling energy and tension. And it really works for the theme of the film and the plot as well. You discussed it a little bit earlier, actually, but looking through your filmography, queer culture and history has so far been a consistent and unifying element to your work, and addressed entirely off screen in Tommies, of course, but in sharp contrast to House of Air from a few years ago, which explores gay sex very explicitly. And it seems that you're finding original and innovative ways to explore those ideas. Is that something that you wish to continue exploring in future work?
I mean, we're currently working on a feature which is set in Australia, set in Sydney in the 90s, where, where I'm from. And I mean, again, it is a gay story, and it's kind of told through. I mean, the main character is actually the mother of a young boy, and so again, it's sort of looking at the queer experience, but not maybe perhaps from the angle that you would expect. But beyond that, we're working on a bunch of feature ideas that actually don't, they're not focused explicitly on gay history or gay themes, but I think nonetheless, the way we think about it is, excuse me, the way we think about it is that, even if we're telling stories which aren't necessarily queer, there's always the queer perspective that comes to bear, because you think about relationships differently, or you think about, the status of being an outsider differently, or, you might view male relationships differently. Or you might be attracted to a particular character or story because it somehow resonates with the queer experience. So, I think you can make a very queer film even if the subject matter is not queer. So yeah, I mean, putting it this way, I mean, we've been very happy to explore the stories and the ideas and the histories that we have, but we certainly don't feel bound to just exploring, queer history and queer identity.
Sure, I know what you mean. That definitely kind of adds to various perspectives. It kind of gives a different lens and new filter to kind of look through through things, and to kind of see things in a different way that aren't always readily explored. So yeah, I think the films that you have made so far have been very kind of brave and interesting and innovative. So we really appreciate what you're doing. You mentioned that you are working on a number of different things at the moment. What can we expect to see from you both next?
Well, hopefully a feature. I mean, I think like everyone. I mean, I think especially after a film like this short film, which was I think ambitious, very elaborate. I mean, increasingly people are doing. I'm seeing more and more period shorts out there. I mean, people are getting more ambitious. I mean, we certainly wanted to do this in a particular way with a very, we wanted this to be almost indistinguishable from a feature in terms of caliber of actor and production design and scripting and all of those kinds of things. But yeah, hopefully a feature, as I say, set in Australia, set in Sydney in the 90s. So we've just kind of we're just about to start going out into the world and start knocking on doors with the script. But yeah, we have another idea that's set similar periods in the kind of during the Industrial Revolution. We have a German language film we'd like to make. So it really is just, that kind of, it's just a question of, time and money and maybe a bit of luck as well.
Well, wishing you all the best with that next production and feature. I'm sure it will be fantastic. It's all we have time for, I'm afraid, but it's been really great speaking with you today, Karl. Thank you, and Brian, again, so much for your fantastic film, which opens our festival. Really excited to screen it and hope our audience enjoys it as much as we do. Thanks again, and we'll surely speak to you soon. Take care for now and get well soon.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.